This is lesson 6 from George's Secret Key to the Universe, and the first word is uninhabitable, and you can find it on page 144. If the Earth's temperature continues to rise, he went on, by the end of the century, flood and droughts will kill thousands and force over 200 million people to flee from their homes. Much of the world will become uninhabitable. Food production will collapse and people will starve. Technology will not be able to save us because it will be too late. So it sounds like with floods and droughts killing thousands and forcing millions of people to flee from their homes, and knowing that that is making things uninhabitable, that gives me a big clue about what uninhabitable might mean. The next word is havoc, and you can find it on page 148. By late afternoon, the boys had given quite a few people living in their small town a bad fright. They'd shot an old lady with colored water from a toy pistol. They'd thrown purple flour over a group of small kids, and they'd set off firecrackers under a parked car, making its owner think they'd blown it up. Each time they had caused as much havoc as possible and then scampered away very quickly before anyone could catch them. So it looks like the boys have caused a lot of trouble, and then it's referred to as causing as much havoc as possible. So that should give you a good idea about what havoc means. The next word is ominously, and it's found on page 150. His band of boys checked their stash of trick weapons and hurried along behind him up the weed-covered driveway. But as they approached the house, they all noticed a strange, eggy smell, which grew stronger as they approached the front door. "Pooh-wee," said the huge devil, holding his nose. "Who did that?" "Wasn't me," squawked Zit. "He who smelt it, dealt it," said Ringo ominously. The smell was getting so overpowering now the boys were finding it hard to breathe. So here's the word ominously, and I'm not sure if you can get the meaning of this from the way that the text is reading up until now. So I would probably look this one up in the dictionary. The last word is deliberately, and it's on page 154. "Ugh, were you cooking?" said Whippet unhappily. "It stinks here." "No, not cooking." "Well, not food anyway," said Dr. Reaper. "I was doing an experiment. I should get back to it, and I shouldn't keep you here. I'm sure you have other people in the neighborhood to delight with your amusing tricks." "What about—" said Ringo, trailing off deliberately. "Oh yes," said Dr. Reaper. "Why don't you boys come and wait on the doorstep while I go get something? I'll only be a moment." So right here, Ringo trails off. He says, "What about?" And he's trailing off deliberately, and it looks as if he's trying to make Dr. Reaper remember something. So if he's doing it deliberately, then maybe that'll give you a clue about what the word means. In this writing prompt, you're going to explain how punctuation and style create natural sounding speech and dialogue. Include text evidence and page numbers in your response. And you're going to use 5 to 7 sentences to explain this. And I've marked a couple areas where I think you might find some good dialogue. So the first is pages 128 and 129. And so this is at the beginning of chapter 15. And Eric is very angry because he's just rescued Annie and George, and he's questioning them about why they were in outer space. And so there's a big section of dialogue here going on between the three of them. And in here you can see some of the things the author does. There's some italics. There are some pauses. There's a lot of description in here, where George says he half expected to see jets of steam burst out of his ears, just like the ones on the comet. And there's even something from Cosmos over this way. There's some exclamation points. So all of these different things help us establish the situation with the dialogue. And then the other two pages I found were pages 138 and 139. And this is when George has gotten Annie to crawl through the fence and they're sitting in the pig pen. And it's after they've both been grounded and haven't seen each other for a while. And so they have a conversation and they talk about where Annie's mom is and some other things. But I thought this was also a good example of dialogue exchange between two characters. So you might want to use that as well.